Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Sarah Smith, and you're listening to Raw Intentions. All right, I'm back stealing my roommate's bedroom. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see behind me. Anytime my roommate Courtney's out of town, shout out Courtney, I always take over her room. Typically, I've been recording in our podcast studio in Denver, which has been so amazing, but I've been traveling so much that I haven't really had a chance to go to Denver as I live in Breckenridge. So I decided to do a little throwback and record a few out of my bedroom and out of my house, which is what I've been doing for the last 2 years pretty much. But yeah, so stoked to be here. And this episode is so freaking good. I cannot stress that enough. I believe it's January 2nd when this podcast launches, which is perfect timing for this episode with the new year. But before we get into this episode, I'll give you my little elevator pitch just in case this is your first time listening. So like I said in the intro, my name is Sarah Smith, Sarah with an H, Smith with a Y. I'm from Madison, Alabama, currently living in Breckenridge, Colorado. I'm 30 years old and I am the founder, owner of Raw and Rebellious, which is a lifestyle brand that started as a little handmade jewelry company out of my college apartment, 8 years ago now, which is insane. So I started making jewelry in college. I was studying to be a bilingual occupational therapist. It kind of took off. I was skipping class to make jewelry. I was selling it on Instagram and then never took the GRE, never went to grad school for what I thought I was going to do with my life. And here we are 8 years later. I don't actually do jewelry anymore. I do apparel, and it's turned into so much more than just a business where I'm selling people things. It's a lifestyle brand, it's a community, and we do hoodies, we do hats, we do shoes, we do collaborative projects, we do meetups. I do hosted weekend events now, which I'll be doing a lot in 2025. And you can follow my business. I should have plugged that at raw_rebellious. Follow along. And that community is really what led me to start this podcast, Raw Intentions Podcast on Instagram. I just wanted a lifeline to our community, a way to further our connection. I chat with you guys via DMs every single day. There are literally thousands of you. And so I figured, why not start a podcast where I can hear myself talk, because I'm obsessed with myself, obviously, or else I wouldn't have a podcast. But more importantly, I get to have really incredible conversations with other people, either friends of mine that I'm so lucky to have in my life, or people that I admire via social media from afar that I get to slide into their DMs and ask them to come on my podcast. So speaking of friends, this is someone that I've met within the last year through another very incredible mutual friend, Anna Grace. Her name is Nicolle Merrilyne, and we met through both being bridesmaids in Anna Grace's wedding, which is super fitting. Nicolle, how do I begin to describe you? She is a intuitive healer. She is a spiritual mentor. She is a medium. She is a community cultivator. She coaches, she teaches, and she brings people together. And really, I think the underlying why of what she's created in her brand and her lasting impact is making mindfulness, intuitiveness, energetic healing, spirituality accessible, stripping away all of the unimportant and just bringing it to everyone and really enabling each and every person that she comes in contact with to, be the healers of themselves, to take the power back. And especially for women, we are such naturally intuitive beings, and just tapping back into that. And that's something that she said in this podcast that stuck with me. It all comes from within. We all have this power within ourselves. And this podcast just so happened to be recorded at the perfect time with the new year. I know we all have a million things we want to do, and we're trying to turn a new page, start a new leaf, or turn a new leaf, start a new page, whatever the phrase is, and rushing around just trying to be the best version of ourselves. So I think this episode is a perfect listen to right now. She's got tons of programs, tons of helpful advice, ways to really implement all of these practices into your life in a really manageable way. And I'm so excited for you guys to hear this. So take us on a walk with you, go outside, get grounded, do some meditations, and we are going to take you to school. And by we, I mean Nicolle, because I was literally taking notes this entire episode. But I will shut up and let Nicolle do the talking. So without further ado, let's welcome Nicolle Merrilyne to Raw Intentions Podcast. Well, I'm so excited we're getting to have a little do-over.
I know.
We tried a podcast last week and it just wasn't meant to be because we ran into technical difficulties 3 separate times.
It was crazy.
It was crazy, but this week I literally made I don't know if you could see that on your end, but I made the name of our little studio room Nicolle, and then this will work in all caps.
We're just manifesting that this is going to work, and it is. It's already working. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. So We're starting fresh today, but I'm so excited to have my dear friend Nicolle on the podcast. We got connected through Anna Grace and her
Yeah.
wedding. We were both bridesmaids. So we met at the Bachelorette, and the rest is history. And
Mhm.
it's been so cool getting to know each other. And I feel like making friends in adulthood is just so quick and easy and profound. And we
Yeah.
had so many amazing conversations just in the short time we've known each other. And so I'm so stoked to have you on the podcast, Nicolle, just to hear more about your story and to spread your light to my community and yours.
Well, I am so grateful to be here. I mean, you are such a light, and I feel like everyone who knows you knows that and is so lucky to know you. And like you said about friends, I mean, becoming friends as an adult women is so nice because you get to like choose the people you actually want to connect with. And when you meet those friends where
Yeah.
it's just easy and we get each other and we can go deep right away, I cherish it so much.
No, I do too. It's so special, and it's cool to be able to have this conversation, in podcast form, and get to, like, share some
Yeah,
of this, and also selfishly, we know each other on such a deep level, but there's also so much that I still don't know about you, so
true.
curiosity ignited. I'm excited to ask you all the questions. So before we just get into everything, I would love for you to introduce yourself to my listeners, to your community, and just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. And it's such an honor to be here and to share and to have these conversations. So, my name's Nicolle Merrilyne. For anyone who doesn't know me, I am a lot of things. I'm an intuitive healer, I'm a medium, I'm a meditation teacher. But really, what I feel like my mission is here to do is to just help women on their spiritual path, help women see how spiritual tools can be super practical and easy, and that we're all just these really beautiful, empowering intuitive beings that are here to do really special stuff in the world. And so I do this through a lot of different channels. And I think a big thing for me is just spirituality doesn't have to look a certain way and it doesn't have to feel like a certain thing. And there's no rules to it all. And I think I'm really here on a mission to do that and to break down those rules and barriers for people.
I like that, and I think just making it more accessible because, like anything, spirituality and health and wellness and meditation can become so much of, like, a marketplace where you feel like you have to buy all
Yeah.
this stuff or, like, get all this training or be at a certain level in your life to even begin, like, that barrier to
Yeah.
entry seems so scary, and even for someone that I mean, I feel like I am intuitive, definitely not on, your level or Anna Grace's level. I'm surrounded by tons of very intuitive and touch people in my life, which I think
Yeah.
is kind of supposed to be a mirror for me to tap into it a little bit more. And
Hmm.
it's always inspiring being around y'all, but I also love like all my friends in this space are always like, you could do this too. You could do this too. And
Yeah.
I love that that's your platform because I really do think that's why you have such a huge community and a huge audience and you've been so successful where you are is
Thank
because you're practicing what you're preaching. You really are putting the power in everyone else's hands and giving them the tools and taking it from like the beginner level and making it less just like, "Ah, I don't know what I'm doing or oh, this is too much for me," which I
Yeah.
think is cool.
Ah, gosh, I appreciate that. I need to come on here more often. You're just
Of
boosting me
course,
up, girl.
of course.
No, but it's so true. And I think when I first started getting back into meditation, I used to meditate when I was a kid, but when I really started to explore it as an adult, it was all mindfulness. That was like the headspace era, the mindfulness era, like all the
Mhm.
CEOs are doing mindfulness. And I remember it was really hard for me. Like I didn't connect with mindfulness as deeply at the time. And it felt like there was a harder barrier to entry. It felt like you had to get on one of these apps or you had to do it this way or it had to look like this. And I'm such a big believer in there shouldn't be all these rules. And we all have these tools. Like you have your breath, you can use your breath, you can use your intuition. It's all within you. And I always share with all of my clients, like, I'm just trying to help you be your own healer or be your own guide or be your own teacher. And so anyone who makes it feel like, oh, you need to do this or you need to learn from me here or you need to go on this path that looks a certain way, I just don't vibe with that. And I feel like we're all such unique individuals who are going to find our ways in different ways. And we're all intuitive. So there's a basis of that, a foundation of that that we can just really grow on.
I love that, and I would love for you, as we go on to dive into, you talked about being a spiritual healer and an intuitive and a medium and maybe some of
Yeah.
like the one-on-one basics for that, just for anyone listening that doesn't know. But even to take it a step back, I mean, you saying that you started meditating when you were little, I feel like is a pretty rare thing. And I remember us talking about it on The Bachelorette about our families, and you were saying that your parents, I feel like, are pretty holistic and in tune
Mhm.
as well. So I'd love for you to
Yeah.
speak a little bit on that and maybe how that brought you into your spiritual journey.
Yeah, my parents, I'm so grateful for them, and I'm just so grateful for the way that they really raised my brother and I. Everything was based on curiosity, and so both of my parents are in the holistic health field. My dad's a chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner. My mom's also a functional medicine health coach, and so there's always just been this foundation of holistic healing. And my dad, he's done martial arts for like 35 years, so he's always had this very strong connection with energy. And I remember when we were kids, he would like take us out on the grass and teach us how to like pull energy up into our bodies and like work with energy. He would call it chi. And of course, as a kid, we were just like having fun, like, ooh, fun visual, like this feels cool. But, later on in my life, I really realized, wow, just even having those skills as a kid or having the understanding, the visual of it really just formed such a strong foundation for when I would discover it again on my own. And he also taught us how to like meditate on magnets, which is so funny. My parents are very magnet obsessed. They like sleep on magnets. They have all these magnets. And like as a kid, I always was like, what's up with the magnets? You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're like, great, cool. I'll stand on these magnets with you, dad. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh, they were ahead of their times. Like they
Mm,
were on to something. And it's so cool to now, as an adult, be able to really reflect that back to them and just say, like, hey, I get it now. Like, I get it. And I appreciate you sharing all this with me when I was a kid.
yeah. Okay, wait, so what was up with the magnets? What was the purpose behind that?
So it's all about the electromagnetic field of the earth. So
Okay.
I'll just say I'm not a magnet expert, but I'll share kind of what he's told me. So basically, when you stand on magnets and you meditate with magnets, you're connecting with the electromagnetic field of the earth. And so there's a lot of like connection, balancing of our energy. And I mean, there's magnets in the earth, right? And
Yeah.
so you're connecting with that energy, pulling it up and it really helps to align your chakras, align your energy centers. That's my understanding of it, and you can
Wow.
tell, like, when you meditate on magnets my dad has, like, a chair, and then he has ones that you stand on. It's pretty deep. Like, you can
Yeah.
really feel the energy moving through you. It's pretty
You're, like,
cool.
really getting pulled. I mean, it's like grounding, but
Yeah.
even more magnified, for lack of a better term.
Hey, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Exactly, it is. It's like a magnifying grounding experience, which is pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And, we talked about this last week too when we started the podcast, but you were saying too when you were younger, you used to have, like, super visual experiences, and
Yeah.
your dad would have the same, and I would love for you to speak on that a little bit because we
Mhm.
talked about this where when you're a child, you're such a spiritual being, you're so unaffected by societal norms and by the world, and you just are such a pure little ball of
Yeah.
authenticity, and so many people, like, leave that and then come back to it later in life, and I was talking about, like, for me, when I was little, I used to always talk about my past life as a little boy in Africa, and my
I
parents,
love
like, they
that.
didn't, like, dismiss me or anything, it was just, like, something that I always talked about, and they, like, jokingly would bring it up later, but until I met Anna Grace, I never even thought about, like, "Oh, this could be me actually talking about a past life, like, this is
Yeah.
crazy." So, yeah, when did all of that start, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so ever since I can remember as a kid, I always saw things. And I think there's a misbelief around what seeing really means. And whether that would be I would actually see spirit, or I would see movement, or I would see flickers of light. There's a lot of people who can see spirit. And I think people think that seeing spirit is like having someone just sit on the edge of your bed and start talking to you, which
Mm,
sometimes, yes, that's true. But more often than not, as you're activating your clairvoyance, you are going to start to see movement and colors and sparks. And I'm sure all of us who have been listening, you've had that experience in the bathroom where you like close the door, you close the mirror, and you feel something or you see something in kind of your peripheral vision. That's
mhm,
also you tapping in and seeing spirit or seeing energy. And so, but as a kid, I really could see a lot. I would see the spirits sitting on the edge of my bed. I would see movement. I would see all of those different things. And luckily, my dad also saw them too. He's still to this day it's so funny. My poor mom is like, "I don't wanna see anything, so don't tell me what you're seeing." My dad's like, "There's a little girl that's walking right behind you." And my mom's like, "No, stop." And it's just that's, like, their dynamic though, so it's
yeah,
funny. But, yeah, as a kid, I would tell my dad these things, and it was cool because he would validate it for me, and I
mm,
never felt, like, weird or it never felt wrong or something that I shouldn't do or should, close off, and that's where I'm really excited to one day hopefully have kids because now our generations, we have the tools, the knowledge, the understanding that, hey, that was probably a past life, or hey, your imaginary friend is probably a spirit. Like, who is that? Ask them about it, you know?
Right.
And so luckily my parents had a small kind of understanding, especially my dad, and we would see spirits together and he would tell me what he was seeing. And so it was very nurtured. And again, it was all just from curiosity. However, I did have an experience around like 8 years old that scared me. And it was this like spirit came over me and I was scared and I like put the covers over my head and I just like felt the presence over me. And I think
Mhm.
at that time, I really closed down my ability to see because I was like, I don't know what that was. It was so scary and it felt really intense. I
Mm.
still don't really know exactly what that was, but at the time, I was like, okay, like I'm scared, like no more of this. And so I kind of stopped seeing things that clear or detailed for probably about 10, 15 years of my life. And I'm sure we'll get into this, but I was in a very abusive relationship kind of midway through high school into college, and he ended up passing away. And one of the main reasons why I really opened up to mediumship is because my first call was my best friend's aunt, who's a medium, and we channeled him together. So that really kind of opened me up as an adult to really bringing those gifts back in and connecting with spirit in a new way.
Wow. I had no idea. That is
Yeah.
incredibly powerful. Well, why do you think the medium was your first call?
I mean, I think because I knew that we would be able to connect. And I
Mm.
mean, the whole way that it happened was very sudden. It was a sudden death, it was
Mm.
very unexpected. But there was a part of me that knew that everything was okay. I mean, not to get into it too much, but he always said he was gonna pass away early and young, and both of our favorite numbers was 22, and he was 22 when he passed, so there was a lot of these very, like, universal themes that were coming in and signs I felt, and I just
Mhm.
remember I was so overwhelmed by the news and the way that it came in, and of course, I, like, called my parents and, all of that, but
Yeah.
I called Auntie Karen, who's the medium, and we just dropped in, and I think talking to a medium, anyone who's dealing with grief, especially unexpected death and someone who passes away very young, to be able to speak to a medium, to just know that they're okay or get an answer or just feel that sense of, okay, I can breathe a little bit in this moment. I mean, now I get to be on the other side of it and help other people in their grief journey. But that was such
Mm.
a pivotal moment for me because she was able to validate, okay, he's safe, and everything's okay, and gave me that opening to be able to connect with him on my own as well.
Wow. And do you think that was kind of the moment and the experience that turned you back to your spirituality, like, from your childhood?
It was definitely the start. I mean,
Mm.
in college, I was in college. Yeah, I was partying and having fun. I was in a sorority. But I was also living kind of this double life where I had this very abusive, toxic boyfriend that I hid. And so it was like I was battling this internal battle of being in this relationship, having to hide so much of it and hide what I was
Mm.
going through, but then also like living this very, sorority life in college. And this he passed away, my junior year of college, and so after that, I just kind of numbed myself with partying and socializing and doing all the things because I was 21. I was like, "How do I deal with this? How do I don't
Yeah.
even understand how to process these emotions," and it was also really confusing for me at the time because I was starting to realize after he passed just how abusive it actually was. When you're in it, you don't realize it, and
Yeah.
once you move through it and once it's gone and you get to the other side, you're like, "Whoa, not only was I grieving, him and his life, but I was also starting to wake up to the truth of what that relationship really was and what it did to me." So, and then at the time being in a sorority, like people didn't understand. No one knew how to support me and my feelings and what I was going through, so I kinda just had to push it away. So
Yeah.
it wasn't until I would say around 23, like 2 years later, where I really kind of went through more of my adult spiritual awakening. But that was like
Mhm.
it was a start. It was like a small opening that I then kinda had to close because I was 21 and didn't know what to do. But then later on, that was really the start of everything.
Yeah, and I mean, going through something at that age, and I've been through some, emotionally abusive stuff in a couple relationships that I've been in as well, and exactly as you said, like, you don't really notice or you don't really realize, sorry, like, how bad
Yeah.
it is until reflection or until you get in a new relationship that's much healthier. But also going through it at that young of an age, I mean, there's some experiences that I've had in college that I've reflected on in later years that I, like, didn't even realize were as bad as they were.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to reflect on those things and you learn from them, but it's hard to even imagine you putting yourself in that situation in the first place. So I'm so sorry that you had to move through that. I mean, of course, like, you've learned so much since, and I'm sure that you've, moved through all of that being who you are, but it's still an incredibly hard thing to go through in college when, like, we don't even know who we are. We're all and, like, I was in a sorority too, like, you're just kind of like sheeps in a herd.
Yeah, and you're just trying to figure it out, and
Mhm.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it's completely okay. It's part of my story and my journey. And
Mhm.
it's also interesting because so much of it is written in my astrology and in my natal chart. And so I really believe that I needed to go through that experience. And, it opened up so much for me. And of course, I wish I could say, like, Nicole, like, you don't deserve this, and like just hug that version of me. But
Mhm.
there was so much that I learned, and, I really believe that everything happens for a reason, and who knows, maybe I wouldn't be in the relationship that I am in now or the career I'm in now if those things didn't happen or if I didn't have to learn and grow through them.
Of course. No, I
Yeah.
I agree, and I think that that's it's an amazing outlook. And
Yeah.
so, when you were 23 and you started moving back into this space, what were the first things that you were kind of feeling out and doing in your spiritual journey?
Yeah, so I actually came back into the spiritual world on accident. So I was working a 9 to 5 where I was just unhappy. I wasn't chasing a dream. I wasn't really like doing anything super creative with my life at the time. And I remember I had this strong gut feeling where I was like, I need to quit. I just need to quit my job. I don't know why. I don't know what this is going to do for me, but I just need to quit. And I ended up quitting my job. I trusted that intuitive hit. And I had another job that was lined up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be good. I quit this job. I'm going to go to this next job. I was super excited about this next job. It was like social media at Forever 21, like dream job at the time,
Mhm.
like back then, like
Mhm.
so cool. And I remember I was getting ready to start this next job and I got that same gut feeling of like, you can't do it. And I was just like,
Mm.
what? Why? This is my dream job. Like, I'm going to get paid really well. I'm going to work in LA, like, the whole dream. And I remember it took me up until the very night before where I was supposed to start this job. Where I was like, fine, okay, I'm not going to do it. And I remember telling my mom, and she was like, okay, like, sure.
Yeah,
Luckily they like understand intuition and
right.
supported me in that. But I could tell she was kind of like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, mom, I just can't do it. And so after that decision, I went through like a 6 month period of not having a job and trying to
Mhm.
find a job and interviewing and the whole thing. And it was during that point in time where one of my friends was like, hey, like, come meditate with me. She worked at a meditation studio. She was teaching at a meditation studio, and I had nothing else to do. We would like work out together and then we would just go meditate at the studio. And I remember going to my first few classes and I was like, whoa, I love this. I feel so good when I leave. It just came really naturally. And so I started volunteering at the meditation studio because I couldn't afford to pay for classes. And I just got really involved in meditating again. It was kind of like this part of me that was lying dormant was finally waking up again.
Mm.
And it just felt so good to like be in an environment where everyone's meditating and people are learning and there's psychics and compassion teachers. And it was just a cool energy. And I eventually ended up working there, and which was so, the journey of me then finding my place kind of in this meditation studio and learning from all these really cool teachers and mentors and people. And I told you that I was producing a podcast. So I produced a podcast there.
Mhm.
So, long story short, I ended up working at this amazing space called The Den in LA. And that's really where I started to just kind of reawaken all of my gifts. But I was there for 4 years and I really didn't start taking my own gifts seriously until the very end. So, this was really kind of just a time for me to explore and play. And I'd always built everyone else's dreams in my life. And I think towards the end of my time at the Den, I finally was like, what about my dream? I want to explore my own dreams. And
Yeah.
I remember my boss at the time who was incredible. She was like, "Hey, you should do this intuitive healing certification. Like, do it. Why not? You always talk about it." I was always like, "Oh, I want to do it. That sounds fun," but I never did it. And she really encouraged me to do it. And I remember I took that course and it was like a 12-week experience. And I was like, oh, this is my thing. Like I finally found something for me. I don't know, you're into human design a little bit, right?
Yeah,
I'm a manifesting generator, so I'm
I am
like, I
too.
wanna yeah, wanna be an interior designer, I wanna do this, I wanna do that, and it
Mm.
was always so hard in my life to, like, find my thing, and I remember I took this course and I was just like, "Wow, this is really powerful," and at the time, I was dealing with a lot of health issues, and I was just not in my body, I didn't feel good, I was scared to eat things, I was bloated all the time, acne, like, all of it, and I remember doing this certification and starting to incorporate intuitive healing into my life really started to change my physical body, and so I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." It came so naturally, it felt so good, I was seeing the results
Mhm.
for myself, and none of this, though, was with the intention of, like, building a business, it was just for me and for fun, and I was in the certification, and my friend, I'll never forget, she called me and she was like, "Hey, you need to put donation-based readings up on your Instagram." And at the time, I had a food page, so I was like, "That's weird, like, no one knows who I am on here, they just see my food, like, what are they gonna think?"
Yeah.
And 'cause, yeah, I had done a reading for her, and she's like, "No, you're really good at this, you should do it." And so I was like, "Fine, I'll do it, I'm a Capricorn." I'm like, "If you're gonna dare me, like, I'm gonna do it." And so I put up this graphic of, like, I'm doing donation-based readings, and ever since I posted that story, I've been booked with sessions ever since, and so that was kind of the journey to my spiritual awakening that also led to my business.
Wow, I love that, and I love all of these people that you've surrounded yourself with that are, like, telling you to do the thing.
Yeah.
And you touched on feeling like you were always being there for other people and, like, building up everyone else and maybe being that, like, supporting character. So how cool that those people turned around and kind of pushed you to do that.
I've never reflected on it in that way, but it's so
Mhm.
true. I feel like the people who I've always surrounded myself with, especially in those early years, and my husband Jordan, like, just always supported me and pushed me, and you need that sometimes in life.
You do, and I think especially that's something that so many business owners and entrepreneurs have in common. If you don't have that familial or friend support, like, I wouldn't have my business. There is no way if I did
Yeah.
not have the support from the people that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. And family too. I mean, I got very lucky. I get this question all the time. People are like, does your family support what you do? I mean, I'm a medium, like that's kind of different. And I'm like,
Mhm.
they do. And I feel very lucky for that because
Mm.
both my family and my husband's family never thought I was weird or that I was doing witchcraft or like evil or anything. And
Mhm.
all of them have really embraced it. And I feel like so many people around me have just from kind of all of us talking about things and them supporting me, which has been really
Yeah.
cool to witness.
Yeah, and then you're kind of growing their spirituality as well alongside
Yeah.
your own, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty special, I would say.
So you earlier talked about, backtracking to that Forever 21 job, which is so funny and also, like, total dream job at that time, like, are you kidding?
Right? Oh
No,
my
like,
gosh.
iconic. Um,
Iconic.
yeah, and feel like women especially are so freaking intuitive, and
We are.
it's like it's spooky how intuitive we are, and, like, there
Mhm.
are times in my life where I've found that I've kinda blocked that gut feeling,
Yeah.
and I've gotten away from myself, and that's really scary because then you feel almost, like, in the dark with
Yeah.
yourself versus when I lean into my intuition, and then I realize, like, "Oh, yeah, no, I am psychic, like, this is so right, I knew this was gonna happen." So do you have any advice because you said, like, intuitively, you just knew, for
Mhm.
anyone that maybe feels like they're away from their intuition or wants to tap in or, like, what that feels like when you're in that flow state with yourself?
Yeah, I would say that if you are feeling disconnected from yourself, the first thing you need to do is reconnect with your body. Our
Mm,
intuition is within. I think people forget that. They forget that the answers are within us, your intuition is within you, and that inner compass is within your heart. And
mm,
so I another thing too I notice with people is they want to trust their intuition for the big things. Like I need to quit my job or I need to move across the country or these like big moments in life. But
yeah,
if you don't trust your intuition in your day to day, like how can you trust it in those big moments? So, what
yeah,
I would say is to focus on the small things, the day to day things. Can you trust your intuition around what to wear or what to eat for the day? Or
mm,
I don't know, what to post about, or if you're going on a walk to go in a different direction? Like, what are the little moments in your day to day that you can tap into your intuition and just ask yourself, if you're thinking about what you want to eat for dinner, ask your body, like, what does my body need? You can give yourself
mm,
2 options. You can just, like, see if your body says, like, "I want this. I want cauliflower. I want stir fry. I want whatever," and trust that. And so in those small moments, and they might be silly, right? If you choose a red shirt over a blue shirt, like it's silly and it doesn't actually matter, but it's starting to build that trust muscle because intuition is just a muscle. I tell people this all the time.
Mm,
It's just a muscle. And you can't go to the gym and just expect to curl a 100-pound weight if you haven't been there working out. So how
right.
do you expect your intuition to like be spot on or for you to even trust it in those big moments if you haven't been playing with
Mhm.
it and working it out in the day to day?
I know. I mean, I love that idea, and I think the food thing especially speaks
Yeah.
through. I mean, people talk about intuitive eating all the time, and like leaning into your cravings. And I know that that comes with your cycle as well, and like how you need to feed
Yeah.
yourself at different times of the month, which is very real. And just leaning into whatever you feel like you need rather than being on this stringent, like, okay, I'm going to have breakfast every day at 8 and then like lunch every
Yeah.
day. Like sometimes I'm ravenous, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I want like tons of sweets, sometimes I don't. And like even those little things really are your intuition. I think that's a very
Yeah.
doable thing. And I also think just the importance and, you were talking about mindfulness earlier, which I think is such a buzzword of just staying present and staying grounded. I think that allows you to
Yeah.
hear those
Yeah.
thoughts and your intuition more clear. If like, instead of when you're on a walk, just immediately grabbing your phone, like maybe leaving your phone at home and going on a walk and just like allowing yourself to like listen to that internal monologue instead of shutting it down.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I see that in so many people. I mean, if you think
Mm,
about it, people wake up, they're on their phones, they're on their TV,
yes.
the computer. There's so many other people's opinions and thoughts coming into our minds at all times, which, like,
Mhm.
there's a time and a place, right? I love a
Yep.
podcast, but like, I don't need to listen to it all day long, every single moment, because then,
Sure.
like you're saying, it does it removes you from your own thoughts, your own intuition, your own intuitive downloads. And so, if you do find that you're foggy, maybe take a moment and take a look at your day. How often am I on my phone? How often do I just allow myself to sit with my own thoughts? Another thing, too, if you are really struggling to connect, set an intention that you will receive information when you're taking a shower or a bath. When we are in the shower, we are naturally more open, we're more intuitive. There's also something interesting that happens when water and metal connect. And so you're naturally kind of opening up to more of this psychic space. That's also why I don't know if you've ever received like a download or a thought or idea when you're washing dishes or doing anything with like water and metal. But there's something
Mm.
about like I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is. I just know intuitively there's a connection there that opens us up. Water also has negative ions in it. You're more relaxed, you're more open. And when you're in the shower, hopefully you're not on the phone or the TV or something too.
Yeah.
So you are really forced to be with yourself. And I find that everyone has shower thoughts. And if you can also see, okay, how do those shower thoughts come through? Because that's also your intuition speaking to you. If it's a feeling, if it's a thought, if it's you hear something, like notice the way that your intuition speaks to you, and that will help make it more clear for when you're like sitting down, you're like, okay, intuition, help me out now. There's a
Yeah, like
different
when you're
energy.
trying to tap in.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so funny you say the shower thing because I find showers, I it's so weird. I'm not a bath person, but in the shower, I lay
Yeah.
down because if I'm, like, stressed, I put my hand on my heart. So I
Yeah.
like the way that the water feels, like, hitting my chest in
Yeah.
a weird way, and I also find that that's when I'm the most present and at peace, like, every day when I shower. I don't wash my
Mhm.
hair very often, but I do shower every day, and
Girl,
it,
same.
like yeah, and it's kind of like my reset time, and it's like my
Yeah.
transition time of, like I always shower before dinner, and then after dinner,
Mhm.
I'm ready to, like, settle into bed or, like, right after
Mhm.
dinner, and I always just find it, like, de-stresses me, allows me to feel peace. So maybe
Mm.
that's another way people can start, we all hopefully bathe and take showers, so, like, making that a special, like, intentional time with
Yeah.
yourself, like lighting a candle and maybe playing some frequencies or light music
Mhm.
or just setting the scene to make it like a very positive experience instead of just like rushing through for like a means to an end.
Yes. And I love that you're saying this because that's actually something I tell my clients to do is to end their day with a shower because or a bath or whatever you connect with because when you do that you're also cleansing your energy. So of course you feel
Ah,
better afterwards because your energy is being cleansed. You're releasing the day and you can actually take what I like to call a spiritual shower where you set the intention that the water will cleanse you, it will release the day, you will let go of anyone you talk to, anything that happened in the day. And so you can really use your shower as a tool to help you release, cleanse, and reset your energy. So I love to shower. I'm like a morning and a nighttime shower just because
mhm.
I'm working with energy so much. And it's such an
Yeah,
easy way to be like, okay, let's clear it all off and really recenter ourselves with our energy.
I'm obsessed with that. I'm gonna shower after this and I'm gonna do that. Do you have any like sorry to put you on the spot, but any like mantras or like intention setting things before someone that's listening to this steps into the shower and like just to
Yeah.
really cleanse from the day?
Yeah. So, something you can do before I go into the shower, I always just set the intention that the water will cleanse and clear my day. And so, when
Mm,
it comes to mantras or intentions, I think they're the most powerful when you use words you would actually use. So, something is, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be like this, specific spoken word. Just set the intention of like, I want to release my day. I'm allowing this water to clear my day off of me. I'm allowing this water to cleanse my aura, my energy, and to let go of anything that I no longer need. Something as simple as that, or even just say, like, I'm letting this water cleanse me, and so it is. Whatever
I
you connect
love
with.
that.
Yeah, it's
Well,
easy.
and I think with mantras, meditations, prayers, all of those things, it's about putting it into your own words with how
Yes.
you speak to yourself or how you speak to God or the universe or whatever that looks like for you,
Mhm.
because then it makes it more powerful versus like, reading something that doesn't really identify how you think or how you feel. So
Yeah.
no, I think that's great. And again, all of this advice, because there are so many of us that want to tap into that and that are very spiritual, but there's just too much noise, there's too much distraction, or you just don't even know where to start. So I love this little tidbit. I hope people can take away from that and implement it. I absolutely will be doing that when when I shower after this.
Yes, and I'm a big believer in just keeping it simple.
Mm,
Like, I feel like there's so much noise, like you're saying, and so many steps and like, oh, do I have to dress a certain way or I have to do 30-minute meditation and then I have to read this mantra and I have to do this and it's like it can just be simple. It can be simple because that's what's most practical and that's like the biggest thing with my work because I'm a practical person and if I can't implement it, then I'm not going to do it. And
yeah.
so doing something like a shower, you're probably already showering, so set a small intention and just let the water cleanse you and it's going to make an impact. If you want to like kick it up a notch, you can use salt. So if you want to add an even
Mm.
deeper cleanse to your shower, I would do either like a salt bath or a salt scrub. Salt will cut through negative energy. So if you had like a really intense day or it's the holidays when we're recording this and so if you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm around a lot of people, a lot of family, there's a lot of energy around me." Use a salt scrub and scrub your body and that will clear out any negative energy from your energy too.
Ooh, I'm literally writing this down, salt scrub. This is something I'm
We're
gonna
here
buy
for the
for
practical tips.
we are. Yeah, I mean, and with the holidays are insane. I need to be taking like 5 cleansing showers a day.
Our families are like, "Why are you in the shower again?"
Really.
We're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
just
our water
cleansing."
bill just, like, shoots up. Everyone's like, "Okay." Yeah, but
Hey,
I
it's
mean,
effective.
and making it simple, like you said, and implementing it with something that you do every day. Like, I remember years ago, every month, every year, meditation was on my goals. Like, I wanted to
Mm,
be a meditation girly, meditate every single day. And I would
yeah,
sit in bed and I would do it, these guided meditations, and I would either fall asleep or I would like just my mind would just wander too much and I couldn't focus. And Anna
yeah.
Grace is actually the one that gave me this idea because I used to go on walks every morning. And she
Mhm,
was like, "Why don't you try to meditate while you're walking, like while you're in
yeah,
movement, so that your mind can kind of focus?" Because walking is very meditative for me, moving my body.
yeah,
That was advice that I really took to heart too, because I was so like stringent of like, okay, meditation has to look like this exact thing that other people do, where I'm like sitting
yep,
cross-legged, palms to the sky, or hands on my heart, but
yep.
it can look like whatever you need it to be.
Oh my gosh. I preach this so hard because so
Mhm.
many people create these barriers for themselves around meditation. It's
Yeah.
too long. I don't have the time. I can't focus. My mind is too crazy. And there are so many myths about meditation that I think are just keeping people from this really beautiful practice. And I always tell people it's like you need to find the meditation that works for you. If it's a walking meditation, if it's during yoga, if it's while you're washing dishes, when you're cooking. So many people, cooking is their meditation. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to look like this long thing where you're sitting and your back is straight and you're silent. And that's just not reality for a lot of us. And I know in my journey, I really tried to make just these very like mindfulness practices work. And my mind would just go and I could not sit still. And it was really hard for me. And it wasn't until I reconnected with energy based practices, visualization practices. I'm going
Mm.
on a journey, I'm feeling energy, I'm working with color. That really gave my mind something to focus on and it made it so much easier. I could drop into like a 30-minute meditation no problem in that space. And so it's
Right.
also asking yourself, well, what makes me feel good? And I need to try as many different things. There are so many different kinds of meditation. Like everyone can find what works for them. And I think getting rid of those barriers of what it should look like or what it should feel like, and just coming to your practice and whatever feels good to you, like you are going to be more effective doing a walking meditation because you're actually going to do it. And I tell people, like,
Yeah.
you need to do what you're actually going to do because that's going to
Mhm.
have the biggest impact on your life versus I'm going to try something and then I don't do it for a month and I'll try it one more time. Like, you got to get into a rhythm with something that you actually look forward to.
I like that, and it's kinda similar to, the advice with, like, habit stacking where,
Yeah.
you pair habits that you want to instill in your life with things that you do every day, like brushing
Mhm.
your teeth and then not brushing your teeth until you make your bed or something, and then having
Yeah.
those together so that you start making your bed more. The same
Mhm.
as meditating, like, think of things that you would enjoy and look forward to in your day that are kind of already a part of your daily routine, and try to
Yeah.
stack it within that.
Yeah, I love habit stacking, especially in the morning. I will brush my teeth and get ready while I listen to a meditation or listen to an
Mm.
audiobook or listen to high frequency music. And I have quite a few meditations on my profile Rise, my platform Rise that are really designed to just play. You don't have to sit, you don't have to close your eyes, you don't have to drop in. You can just listen to them and that still gets you into that vibration of
Mm.
raising your energy, being in a better space and just releasing things that don't feel good. So,
Yeah.
I think if anyone listening, just break down those barriers. You don't have to sit, in a cave quiet for 100 days like a monk. Like you can do any sort of meditation that you like and it will create an impact in your life.
I like that, and I think everyone can very easily put that into practice, especially with the new
Yeah.
year coming. I feel like everyone's on this, like, "Let's turn a new leaf. Let's get some
Mhm.
positive habits." I love the magical feeling of that new year. I mean, it's like it's all made
Yeah.
up, but I love it. I love the idea of a fresh start, and it's so fun setting those resolutions and those manifestations. And you touched on your program Rise, which I really, really wanna talk about because I think
Yeah.
that could be super beneficial for a lot of people listening. Before we get into that, I would also love for you to touch a little bit on the intuitive healing that you started practicing that kind of started your, doing your own thing. And I've seen your transformations on your page of like where you were before and like what you were holding in your body and your acne and your food and all of that. And it's so true how intuitively your body, I mean, I don't know if you felt this way when you were in your abusive relationship, even like you would get sick or your body would bloat or hold on to things or be in this like state of anxiety because it's so intuitive. It knows that something's not right and it's fighting it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I found that in my life too, and I have an autoimmune disease, I have Crohn's, and I've gone through it, with acne and with food and with so many different things in my life, and it seemed that, if I was overstimulated or letting negative things into my life, my body would react negatively, and it would bloat, or I
Mhm.
would be breaking out, or I'd feel very hormonal or whatever that looked like. So I'd
Yeah.
love for you to speak on, like, that feeling within yourself on your journey, and maybe, like,
Mm.
what you learned at the beginning that you were able to show other people.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so true and something that I feel like more women, if we understood that our bodies, when we are bloated, when we have acne, our body is just trying to talk to us. That was a
Mm,
huge perspective shift that I needed to make for myself because I was constantly mad at myself. I don't know if you experienced
yeah.
this too, but like I was
Mhm.
mad when I was bloated. I was mad when I got acne. I was mad when I would look in the mirror and I didn't know who I was. Instead of being mad, my body was just like, something needs to change. Like,
Hello.
yeah, like, "Hi, we're gonna give you all this acne until you pay attention to, like, what's actually happening, and we're gonna bloat your stomach until" like, it's all of these markers of just our body, our intuition trying to say, "Hey,
Mm,
something's out of alignment. What do we need to do?" And
okay.
so, for me, when I really first started the intuitive healing work, where I was at a rock bottom. I had had candida and SIBO, and my gut was super messed up. I had dysbiosis in my gut, and I was just really afraid. I was afraid to eat everything. My poor husband, I was like, "We can't have garlic. We can't have this." Like, he was, like, putting his stuff on the side, like, hiding all of his stuff, and I was like, "Poor guy, I feel bad for him," but we got through it.
And
And but it yeah, and in LA, and it was hard, and I was at this place where growing up, I was a dancer, and I just always was fit, and I never had to worry about anything, and I got to this
Mhm.
place where I was doing all the workouts, I was taking all the supplements, I was eating, following all the different eating diets and things, and nothing worked, and it was so frustrating to get to that place of, like, "Why am I doing so much, but nothing seems to be working for me?" And that's really where I started turning to intuitive healing. And what I discovered in that is that so much of what my body was carrying was actually trauma. It was trauma from my abusive relationship. It was
Mm.
trauma from just all the experiences that I had that I haven't processed, that I pushed down into my body and just kept going. And so once I started to do the intuitive work, I was like, whoa, I could feel the heaviness moving off my body. I could feel just things shifting. And I think that when you are at a place with your body where you don't recognize yourself, you just want something to work.
Mm.
And so I really discovered, okay, there's all this energy that I'm carrying that needs a place to go. This is a big thing I see with my clients now too, is like we absorb so much, but then we don't give it a place to release. And that's
Mm.
why I always tell people, like, if you can start your day grounding to just give your body a place to let go and release, if you take a spiritual shower at the end of your day to release that energy, that is going to help you not carry this excess energy and which can turn into weight on your body, on your physical body. So, by doing the intuitive work, I really started to see, okay, I need to really get serious about processing and moving through what I've been through, releasing the trauma, moving through just all of the things that were coming up for me, belief systems, all of it. And it helped me get to a place where I felt more connected to my body. And I think that's really where the change started to happen is because I was so disconnected. When you don't feel good, you're very disconnected from the body. Mad at it, you're angry at it. You feel like, at least for me, I felt like my body was just not my friend anymore. And by
Yeah.
doing this intuitive healing work, I became friends again. And I started to see, okay, my body isn't out to get me. It's just been hurting. And I needed to do this work, this clearing. And that paired with, healthy eating, exercise, all the good stuff, it really
Mm.
helped make just a huge physical change. But I will say that by doing the intuitive work, it actually let me feel more confident trusting my intuition when it came to the food I was eating, the exercise I was doing. Because when I moved to Seattle, that's really where a lot of my change, my physical change happened. And I found that when I moved, I was away from a lot of the stress in my life, which we don't take account into how much stress impacts our body. I was
Mhm.
away from that. I had made this big change and I started to just be more intuitive in how I was eating. I started cycle syncing, which is also such an intuitive hack for women. And it all
Mhm.
just came back to me connecting with my body. And I think that this work is really just designed to do that. Help you reconnect with yourself because that's where your intuition and that internal compass will come forward.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy you said the Seattle thing when you moved. When
Yeah.
I moved from Atlanta to Colorado, the exact same thing happened, and when I was
Yeah.
living in Atlanta, I mean, I was getting, like, eyelash extensions, hair extensions, I was buying tons of clothes, and I had never felt more insecure about myself,
Yeah.
about my body and, like, my skin, and I had an eating disorder and just had a ton of, like I didn't realize it at the time, but I was feeling pulled in a lot of different directions. I felt like I didn't really have autonomy over my life anymore
Mm.
because
Yeah.
I knew so many people that it felt like all my decisions and plans were just being made for me, and so I felt very stifled,
Mm.
and I went to therapy and was in food like, therapy for food and all that for over a year, and that's kinda how Anna Grace and I, like, bonded so early on, and then, when I moved to Colorado, it was the craziest thing. It, like, all just, like, melted away, like, that those
Yep.
obsessive thoughts and all of those things left, and then I was able to realize through that and moving somewhere where I didn't know anyone, like, "Oh, this is what was harboring in my body and in myself, and that's
Mm.
why my body was holding on to all this," and it was, like, yelling at me, like, "Hey, you don't need all this stuff. Like, you don't need to keep buying all these clothes. You don't need
Yeah.
to, get all this stuff done. Like, you just need to, like, take a step back and get to know yourself." And so that's so
Mhm.
cool that you also had that experience. And for anyone listening that's experiencing that, that looks in the mirror and doesn't love what they see, and, we're women, of course, we're always fluctuating, things are always happening.
Yeah.
And so, of course, there's space for that. And, we have to learn to love ourselves on every single day on those tough days and the days where we feel like $1,000,000. Do
Mhm.
you have any advice for anyone maybe moving through that right now of, like, questions they can ask themselves or, like, journal prompts or mindfulness exercises, anything just to, like, get a little more deeper into, like, the root of that problem?
Yeah. I first of all, that's so crazy that both of us went through that same thing.
Insane.
Like and but also it speaks to how your environment really does create so much in your life, and
Mm,
by just moving, not and I understand not everyone can just get up and move,
sure.
but if that is something that you're dealing with and you have a sense that, "Hey, maybe I'm in an extremely stressful environment or household or situation," like, what are ways that I can protect my energy or remove myself if that's available to me? Because it
Mm,
really does. I speak to a lot of women, and a lot of women have gone through the same thing. They moved to a different house, or they got a new job, or they moved to a different place, and they just like felt their energy again. So
mm,
it's interesting. But to go back to your question, I think that if you are looking in the mirror and you're just not feeling like yourself, the first thing that I think is really important is to just find that self love again. And I know how hard that is when you're not feeling good, but even
mm,
something as small as touching your body. We do not touch our skin enough. We do not touch our body enough. We do not just hold ourselves, give ourselves a hug. And that might sound silly, like, okay, I'm going to give myself a hug. Like, what is that going to do? But by just doing a motion like that and touching your skin, touching your body, and just saying, I love you, even if maybe you're not happy with the chapter that you're in right now, it's a book. You're just in a
mm,
chapter. It's going to keep moving. You're going to keep changing and flowing. And I think that for me, I really just tried to start like seeing myself more and touching my body and holding my body. And that was something that really kind of started a self love journey for me. And then when it comes to journal prompts and questions, I think asking yourself, like, who am I really underneath all of this? Like, what are my dreams? What are my future visions? Like, getting into this place where you're thinking bigger than just where you're at right now. I feel like
mm,
when we're stuck in a place where we're unhappy, that's all we can think about. That's all we can focus on. And everything just shrinks and gets really small. But if you can expand your mind a little bit and reconnect maybe with some dreams that you had or some visions that you've had, I think that's also something that can really shift your energy and show you, hey, like we're maybe we're on the right track towards that. Maybe we need to adjust. Maybe we've actually lost sight of that. And how can we reconnect there? I also
mm,
think another journal prompt that I really like to use is this even mine? I think we carry so much that isn't even ours, and it will be revealed to you if you ask the question, like, what's mine and what's not mine? And how can I release the things that aren't actually mine? And
mm,
again, that's another one that might sound a little silly or simple, but if you just ask yourself, whenever I'm feeling overwhelm or any of these just lots of stress, lots of anxiety, any of those emotions that feel very overwhelming for me, I always ask myself, is this mine? Where did this come from? And do I need to carry it? And I give myself the space to breathe it out, to acknowledge it and let it go. And so, again, it is a journey and it's not going to go away maybe in a day. But what are those small little moments that you can have with yourself that bring in more self love, more connection with yourself and your body? 'Cause I know for me, like I was just so disconnected from myself. And so, small things that I could do to just reconnect, not try to fix, not try to find a solution, just reconnect and be with yourself in that moment. I feel like that really helps to push the needle forward.
wow. I mean, the "Is this mine?" is like a for
Right?
me. And
It's
and
powerful.
my mind immediately wandered because work has been so stressful, and we talked about that last week,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, like, all the stress that I'm feeling and then trying to trace it back to where it comes from, and it's like, okay,
Mhm.
expectations of others, making
Yeah.
other people proud or, the calendar and, like, thinking that I need to do a certain thing by a certain time because of the
Mhm.
time of year and
Yeah.
tracing these little things and, like, almost, like, lifting them, like, I'm imagining myself, like, grabbing it from my brain
Mhm.
or from my heart and just, like, putting
Yeah.
it, like, out my window.
Yes. And you can
I mean,
do
that's
that.
crazy.
You can do that with your hands too. I love that you intuitively did that. I always tell people if you feel intuitively like you need to shake, you need to pull, you need to like let things go, use your
Mhm.
hands. We are powerful beings that have healing hands. And so if you have those thoughts, if you identify them, nope, pull them
Mm.
out, let them go,
Mhm.
pull them out of the heart, shake them out of the body. We are the only animals that don't shake after we experience trauma. All other
Mm.
animals shake and release after they experience a traumatic experience, except for us. We're the only mammals who don't do it. And so give yourself that space to shake it off, to let it go. That's why dancing is so powerful. That can be another form of meditation, is like literally dancing and shaking your body and
Mhm.
moving and pulling things out. Like, don't think that you need to go and I mean, of course, you can go work with someone too, but you can also do so much on your own as well. And I think that's the most empowering thing about this work is like you can be your own healer. And how cool is that? How empowering is that? How
Yeah.
much more confident will you feel if you know that you have these tools and these skills to be able to do this work for yourself and get yourself out of the hole or out of the spiral?
And, like, feeling that freedom, right, to just try
Mhm.
different things.
Yeah.
You talked about touching your body, like, I
Yeah.
find myself doing that in the shower sometimes where I'll, like, kinda give myself a little squeeze on my shoulder or
Yeah.
I tore my ACL a couple ski seasons ago, so sometimes I'll, like, actually kiss my knees and just tell them like,
Mm,
you are strong, like you are beautiful, like you are great, you're powerful kind of thing.
I
And
love
like
that.
just like putting my hand on my heart or on my leg or on my body or on my stomach and like recognizing
Yeah.
like all the amazing parts of yourself and allowing yourself to feel, quote unquote silly. No one else is
Mm,
around. You don't have to tell anyone about this. You don't have to post it on Instagram. You can just experiment with different practices. And you mentioned dancing too. And I've done that before as well, where I I can't remember where I saw this, probably on TikTok or something, where someone talked about dancing being very therapeutic, and they said, "Stay away from mirrors, close your eyes, put your headphones in, and just move in the craziest way you've ever moved, like, just shake your body." It's not like a choreographed routine, and it is the most healing thing. I literally looked into getting a silent disco, headset for all my roommates so that we could,
love.
in our own rooms, just, in the mornings, or if we're feeling, anxious or hungover or whatever, just,
Yeah.
dancing it out in private.
So
I
good.
looked into that whenever I first moved here, and it was too expensive, so I didn't do it, but dancing
Mhm.
is another incredibly healing thing, and just, letting
Yeah.
yourself try and just see where your body takes you, mimics, even we were talking about pulling things out and you intuitively, go like this with your hand, or where you intuitively touch yourself, maybe where you're touching yourself and you're not even thinking is where you need a little more love, whether
Yeah.
that's in your heart or your stomach or your back or your head or your hair, or, whatever that is, just paying attention.
Yeah, and probably where you're touching yourself is where you're we carry so much in the body and we know it. Like we
Mhm,
intuitively can feel where we're carrying, if it's like behind your neck or your shoulders feel heavy or your lower back or your belly, whatever. And where you are moving when you're in these intuitive movements, like you're going to feel the release there, or you're going to want to wipe it off or move it off. And maybe if you're moving your shoulders a lot, you're actually just breaking up all of the tension, all the stagnation of energy
mm,
in that area. Maybe you're opening up your throat chakra because that's been blocking your voice. Like our
mm,
bodies are so powerful and there's so much information that we can gather from our body. And so just doing that for yourself, dancing, moving, anytime I am in like getting into a spiral or feeling frustrated, my husband Jordan will just put on a song and force me to dance. And I'm always mad at first because I'm like, I don't want to do this as we,
mhm,
humans, as we do. And then you start doing it and you start smiling and it completely breaks your mood. It breaks how you're feeling and it just feels so good. And that's
mm,
another really just practical, easy thing. We all probably have an iPhone. You probably have Spotify or a way to listen to music and you can just move and dance. You don't have to
mm.
pay for anything.
I love that. Go
So
Jordan.
good. I
Gotta keep
know.
him out of
He's great. Yeah.
it. He is.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your program Rise earlier, and I know you do now. I mean, you've grown your business tenfold, and this is in what, the last, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, I started all of this in 2020 and then I went full time for myself December 2020. So yeah, it's been 4 years, which is crazy.
Wow.
So
Which is
wild.
insane, but I mean, I feel like you've skyrocketed, you've grown so much, which just shows how meant to be this entire path was for you. So
Mhm.
you started with your intuitive healing, and then I don't know what you would call it, your medium,
Yeah.
what verb would that be?
So
You are
I
a medium, but what would you call that?
yeah, so I started with one-on-one sessions. So I was
Mhm.
doing like intuitive healing sessions and then I actually didn't start doing just mediumship until at least a year
Mediumship.
in.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say that.
mediumship.
I
There
didn't know
you
if
go.
it was right.
You were there. You were right
Okay.
on it.
Mhm.
And so I started incorporating that, and I did readings for a little while, and then I put out my first course, I think in 2021 called Awaken, and that
Mhm.
is an intuitive course helping women tap into their own intuition, strengthen it. Then from there, I did more of like an advanced course that's called Ascend, which is more about like building your spiritual toolkit. And we do a lot of like fun, funky things in there, like astral projection, and you actually learn how to read energy, communicate with animals. So that's more of like if you just want to learn about all the fun, funky spiritual things, and kind
Mhm.
of awaken your own spirituality and your own spiritual toolbox. But then along the way, I've always really had this strong connection to meditation. And I've incorporated meditation into all of my courses, all of my programs, and I've done challenges kind of along the way. And the last 2 years, I just had this vision of like bringing it all together. I just wanted to create a safe community for people where they're spiritually curious and they don't know, Google doesn't have the answers to a lot of these questions that people have. And
Mhm.
the questions that I had along my spiritual journey too. And I know for me, I always wished I had more of like a safe community that I could connect with and talk to. And that's really where Rise was born. So
Mhm.
Rise is like kind of a combination of all the things. It's a learning platform. So there are lessons every month, and we learn about astrology or numerology, or this month we're doing generational healing because it's the holidays. And there's a
Mm.
whole library of meditations and challenges and courses and just kind of this like overarching all of my work together in one place for a more accessible price. And it's been so fun to just see women connect with other women and give each other support and share and just have this really safe space where they don't feel judged to,
Mm.
ask about like the interesting things that they're experiencing or share about the signs or share about, the dreams that they're having and what could it mean. Like there's just so much beauty in the community there while also it being this like really cool learning platform to grow your spiritual experiences. And it's been such a fun journey and something that I'm really proud of because so many of us are, I mean, not even so many of us, all of us are these intuitive beings. And I think to give permission to women to be themselves and to tap
Mm.
into their intuition and spirituality is just the greatest gift. So,
Yeah, and also then getting to cultivate separate community that they can call on in their own
yeah.
lives with these other women is so
Yes.
beautiful, and you're
Yeah.
creating that, like, worldwide.
Yeah, it's been pretty special. I mean, so many women come into Rise and they share how like my family doesn't support this side of me or,
Mm.
they've dealt with religious trauma or all of these things where they just never felt like they could be themselves or even share that they're into astrology or that they have an oracle deck and to have a community where it's normal to talk about all the things and it's not
Mhm.
weird to have these experiences or share about them. It's so cool to watch. Women are so powerful and I
They
just
are.
love it. I love it. I just love
And it
supporting and cheering people on.
I do too, and I also love things like that, like programs like that or communities like that where people are lifting each other up. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes women and I don't know what this is, and maybe you can speak on this, like women tearing each other down or the competitive nature of like, being in social media and comparison and thinking that if someone else is succeeding in your space specifically, then you
Yeah.
feel like something's being taken away, which I feel like just comes from jealousy or some kind of like, dark something. But
Yeah.
it is unfortunately pretty commonplace in, within social media and influencer and content creation and owning your own business in the fashion world. Like I've experienced that in so many different avenues. And so it's so cool seeing something that you've cultivated be so positive.
Oh my gosh. To get notifications when I'm not on the app
Mm.
of women answering each other's questions,
Ah.
sharing advice, sharing stories is the coolest thing. I'm not like, of course I'm on there, but like for me to not even have to reply right away and to just see all these comments coming in of people genuinely supporting each other. Because
Mhm.
same as you, like I've experienced a lot of just women who have always been so competitive with me and like
Mm.
that's why when Anna Grace came into my life, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, breath of fresh air." Just this woman
Mhm.
who is like, there's no competition, there's no, like, mine, yours, any of it, just love and
Mhm.
fun and play. And I know I feel like I manifested that friendship because I went through a lot with friendship in, like, the last 2 years, and to now have this space where there's this genuine support that we're all winning together. And I think that that's so needed, especially for women. And
Mm.
I'll never forget when I was going through my intuitive healing training, my mentor at the time, she's like, there's always enough for everybody. And on an energetic level, you can see this because my energy is different than your energy. And like, let's say we did the same thing, right? Let's say we were both intuitive healers. Like, people
Mhm.
would be drawn to my energy for certain reasons and would be drawn to your energy for a different reason. Like our
Mm.
frequencies aren't the same and so we will never be the same and our work will never be
Yeah.
the same. And there's millions and billions of people who are going to connect with you and going to connect with me for different reasons. And ever since
Mm.
she told me that, I've always just held that feeling of like, I know the right people are going to come into my world. And it's not a competition between other people because I'm me and no one else can ever be me. They'll never have my own, what I believe or what I share or how I do my work. But it's tough when people don't have that same view. And I'm just a big believer that, hey, like I want to cheer on as many women as possible, not even just women, everybody. Anyone
Yeah.
who's chasing their dream, like let's support each other and cheer each other on
Mm.
because that only adds to us too. It raises us all up together. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny, I saw this video and I think, it's almost a mindset of abundance what you're talking about is
Exactly.
that there's always enough and we're all connected. And I saw this video of this woman talking about in the fashion world, you'll see launches around the same time that are sometimes similar with like a similar pattern or a similar color scheme or maybe an ad campaign that's similar. And when
Yeah.
it's put out, I mean, that was made what, like 6, 8 months ago, a year ago, but somehow magically these two seemingly unconnected designers, for example, put out a similar thing or a similar ad or a similar concept. And she was saying rather than looking at it with like anger of like, oh, this
Mhm.
person's copying me or oh, this person thought of this first and it's a competition and you feel that anxiety. It's like, wow, how beautiful that we were both like whispered this idea at around the same time and how connected creativity is. Like truly that is just evidence that like everyone is creating and we're all in the same energetic field
Mhm.
and we're all getting whispered these same ideas from the angels and the muses and the
Yeah.
universe. And I've loved that and I've kept that in my pocket to kind of combat that competitiveness.
Yeah, and maybe to your point, like, maybe even that idea needed to be spoken in these 2 different avenues for
Mm,
the greater good. Like,
mm,
maybe that whatever that was needed to be expressed by these 2 different people. I
mhm.
mean, collective consciousness is so real, and that's why
Yeah.
if you are a creative and if you have an idea, I always tell people, "Claim it." Like, write it down, "It's yours, I'm claiming this idea," and then move on it,
Mhm,
because I'm sure so many of us, if you're a creative, you've probably experienced this, where you had an idea and then someone else makes it if you didn't, like,
mhm,
act on it, and instead
mhm.
of being mad about it, just say, "Okay, like, that was clearly for them, and now there's
Yeah,
gonna be a new thing that comes through for me, and I get to share with that." Because
right.
we get to choose. We get to choose if we wanna be upset, if we wanna be angry, if we wanna be in that, like, competitive lack energy, or we get to choose if we're like, "Hey, this is abundant, there's so much for all of us, and I know
Mhm.
that my channel is clear, and I'm gonna keep sharing from my voice and my truth and my ideas." It's all a choice, it really is.
It is, and I'm curious if that choice and, like, that feeling of abundance and, like, collective consciousness comes into play with you
Mm,
and your role on social media, because I know sometimes social media can be kind of an energy drainer. It's so natural, regardless of who you are to compare yourself, and sometimes we've got great days where videos go viral, and sometimes we create something and no one sees it, and that up and down can be really hard, but it's also a huge part of your business and how you've grown and how you are also able to connect with so many people and help people. So
mm,
how do you deal with that dichotomy of, like, what could be seemingly negative and people do talk about social media in a very
mhm.
negative light to, allowing it to be the kind of funnel for you reaching everyone and having your
Yeah.
business?
Yeah, I think that again, coming back to that idea of choice, like you get to choose what you want to focus on with social media. And I will say, I get a little witchy with my social media. I have a lot of boundaries. I send,
Mm,
posts out with love, with intention. I like visualize who they're going to connect with. And I also
mm,
protect my energy whenever I'm on social media. That's part of my shower routine too, right? I'm clearing out the energy from social media, from everyone that I connected with because when you're online, there are a lot of people who are seeing you, perceiving you, judging you, all the things. And you can get kind of stuck in that, right? That can feel
mhm,
scary. Or on the flip side, you can see it as an opportunity to connect with like minded people, people you can help, you can support, people who maybe you'll inspire to change their lives the way that someone did that for you. And I think it
mm,
really just comes back to choice. And I feel very grateful that I have really good boundaries with my social media. Don't know why, don't know how, but I've just always had really good boundaries and seen it as a tool for fun and for play and for growth. And maybe that's just because I've been on the apps for so long. I remember
right.
when Instagram came out in high school, I was so excited about it and like I got on it immediately. I've always been this creative person. So to me, social media was fun first and then it became a
Yeah,
job. So I think also having that foundation, but I really think that protecting your energy while you're doing anything on social media helps you not absorb so much from like the people and the energy on there. And I
okay.
remember when I first like had some viral videos go out around spirituality, it was pretty intense. There was a lot of in the comments and there was a lot of mean, negative energy and just like very mean. And what I found from that experience was that, hey, like I can't be for everyone and what I'm sharing isn't going to be for everyone, but that doesn't change how I feel about it. And that doesn't make me
Mm,
less than or not good enough. And so I also think that people just give social media too much of their energy, too much of their worthiness, and it's just a tool. And I think if you can really disconnect from it being the life, like your life,
Mm.
just see it as a tool for growth and opportunity, it really changes your relationship with it. It's a relationship at the end of the day.
Yeah, and maybe just shifting your expectations of, like, what it can do for you versus just, like, being an
Yeah.
outlet of, like,
Yeah.
creativity to, like, to share, because that's what it
Mhm.
was intended for originally, just to share
Yeah.
photos and to share moments and to share your life, and now it's turned into something so much more and so much deeper than that, that we tend to get validity of, like, what we're doing and if we're
Yeah.
doing it right and how we look and all of those things, which is so natural, but being
Mhm.
aware of that and having the ability, like, not to soak in all that energy. Because too, I mean, even as you were saying that, I was thinking about, the "Is this mine?" question that you ask yourself.
Yeah.
Social media is such a big thing that has helped me almost, like, channel and be more reactive with my body of, like, if I
Mm.
am scrolling and then all of a sudden I feel really anxious or a pit in my stomach, I, like, stop and I'm like, "Whoa, what caused that? Who did
Yeah.
I see? What did I read? Why am I feeling this way?" And then I can trace it and then kind of let it go, like, give it space and let it go. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize social media for what it is too, that it is opening us up to all of this energy and all of these people and all of this instantaneous stuff that
Mhm.
we're not designed to have at our fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why energy protection is so important. So,
Mhm.
I'll teach you guys a little thing really quick just
Yeah.
because everyone should protect their energy. I'm a big believer in that. So,
Mhm.
all you have to do is, and you can do this, I protect my energy at the start of the day just because we're around a lot of people. Maybe you're going into an office at work, maybe you're on social media. Like, we're engaging with a lot of people and a lot of energy.
Mhm.
So, I have two really simple ways to protect your energy. The first one is when you wake up in the morning, simply say shields up. That's all you have to say shields up, and you can maybe feel, if you're visual, you can feel kind of this energetic shield surrounding you. But even
Mm.
just saying that intention, shields up, your body, your spirit will know what to do and how to work with that. So that's a really easy one. You can like set your alarm to say shields up, like you can have it on your phone as a reminder,
Mm.
shields up, and that will just surround your energy. That's a really simple one. Another one, if you're more visual, I like to surround myself in a golden bubble of energy that feels bouncy. So you can visually feel like, oh, things can't get in unless they want them to come in. And you can
Mm.
choose whatever color, whatever high vibrational color you want. Surround yourself in that golden bubble of energy. And you can set that intention again that my energy is protected and safe today. Those are really easy things you can do in the morning. But if you are someone who's on social media, before you post, check in with that. Surround yourself in that bubble, give yourself that protective energy, and then as you're posting on social media, you'll have kind of that barrier between like bringing all that energy into your body. And then you can just show up and use the app to, whatever intention you want. If you're just sharing, if
Mhm.
you're posting and then leaving, whatever that looks like. And I've found that protecting my energy around social media has really changed the game because people can say whatever they want on the internet, or I can consume whatever I want and it won't come into my space. And that's where you can
Yeah.
then take a shower and just clear everything off at the end of the day.
I love that.
Easy, right?
Yeah, no, I wrote down the shield up and the bubble. I'm gonna try both of those things 'cause I definitely struggle with that, with having to be on social media all the time for my job, and it is such a tool, and I'm so thankful
Yeah,
for it, but it also can, lead to a ton of burnout for me too, so I'm trying
yeah.
to be more intentional with that in ways that I show up and ways that I'm consuming too.
Yeah, and it's a process, right? I feel like we're
Mhm.
constantly learning and you're constantly adjusting and hey, I'm human. Like I have days where a video doesn't do as well as I thought and it's like, ah, but we
Mm.
again get to choose like am I going to let this take over my whole day and create all these stories about I'm not good enough, no one wants to work with me, no one cares, or am I just going to see it for what it is and take a moment to acknowledge the feelings and then move forward?
Yeah. No, I love that, and I love all of the little things that you do in the morning and at night, and the
Mhm.
rituals that you've shared and instilled that are really setting up each day, because I think it does come from the small moments, and I'm curious, I'm sure that there is a laundry list of things that you like to do in the day to day. Are there any more rituals, like, at in the morning or at night that you are, like, tried and true, "I have to do this every day," and I'm
Yeah.
also curious kind of what, like, a week in the life is for you, because you do wear
Mm.
so many hats and have so many different things that you work on.
Yeah. So, surprise to everyone listening, maybe, I'm like not the biggest morning person. So, I think,
Say,
yeah, I think because I teach meditation, people are like, you probably wake up at the crack of dawn and you're meditating and like
"You
light
rise at the
candles.
sun."
Absolutely, like, couldn't be me. Literally could not be me. So, but I share that because, like, again, I think people when we talk about, like, morning and evening routines, they're like, "I need to do all the things. I need to wake up early. I need." Like, there's always this idea of what you need to do.
Mhm.
And hey, like I let my mornings kind of be what they're meant to be. And so, but what I do instill is I always meditate and I try to do something to move my body. If I can't get to a full workout, that's okay. If I go on a walk one day, if I just kind of like stretch my body, I think
Mm.
that for me, what I've noticed, like I'm not someone, I need intuitive movement. Like I need to be able to wake up in the morning and if I feel like doing one thing, do it. But if I feel like doing another thing, give myself permission to do that. And
Mm.
so I want to give everyone permission who's listening that you need to create the morning that works for you. So, but what I teach my students is finding your non negotiables. I think when you have a list of your non negotiables, the things that make you feel good, that you are excited to do, that set your day up for success, have that somewhere. So you do your non negotiables. And then depending on your timing, you add in the fun things. You add in a little bit of this, a card pull, or whatever other
Mm.
stuff you want to do. So for me, usually my mornings, I always meditate and I do something called energy tools, which I teach in a lot of my programs. It's essentially setting my energy up for the day. I'm grounding, I'm protecting my energy, I'm kind of realigning my chakras. So I have this process that I do to just kind of open myself up to spirit, get my body all right, and just feeling good in my energy. If you are someone who's listening, and the two things I would recommend out of that is just grounding and protecting your energy every day. You don't
Mm.
even have to do a full meditation. You don't have to sit in silence for 30 minutes. If you can ground and do some sort of energy protection, shields up or a bubble, like that will start to change how you feel energetically in your day to day. So that's always a non negotiable for me. Movement as well. And those are really the two main things. If I'm like feeling wild, I'll like pull an oracle card or do some journaling, but I'm also not a daily journaler, which my
Mm.
husband is. And I want to be that so badly, but it's just not in the cards for me. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Mhm.
Again, like I think people have these like thoughts or expectations that if I'm going to do, like, if I am going to be the best version of myself, I need to have this laundry list of a morning routine.
Yeah.
Just not it, doesn't have to be. I also will always listen to something when I'm getting ready, whether that is a high frequency, music or an audiobook that's talking about like spirituality or consciousness or something to kind of go into my subconscious and kind of do some work with me, or a meditation or affirmation, something just to kind of help with my energy frequency in the morning. That's usually like my go-to. And then in the evenings, I'll always disconnect from my day, a shower, an energy cleanse in the shower, or even just visually putting my day into a bubble. I have a practice on Rise about this, putting all the energy of my day into a bubble and then pulling it out of my body and exploding it to fully disconnect from my day.
Wow.
Little fun things like that. Nothing that takes too
Yeah.
long, very practical. That would
Mm.
be like my morning and evening routine, I would say. And for me, like my weeks are always so different. I mean, I'm a one man show. So my
Yeah.
business, I run my business, I'm showing up for all of my things. I usually have readings or mentorship clients, or maybe I'm teaching in Rise, or I'm creating content for Rise, or recording meditations, showing up on social media. I mean, it's definitely a lot, and there's a lot that I'm doing all the time, but it's so fulfilling. And I'm sure you feel like this too. When you're chasing a dream, like doing the hard things and showing up all the time, it just feels good. And I want to do that. I want to do all the things that I'm doing, which I feel very blessed about.
Yeah, well, and, like, every little thing that you do, it's building. So
Yeah.
every time you get on live or anytime you show up or anytime you do a new monthly segment for Rise, you're building on what you've already created and creating, like, this empire, whatever you want your future to be. So it
Yeah,
it means so much more.
absolutely. And how lucky are we that we get to do this,
I
build our
know.
empires and just have fun for our work. And I
Mhm.
just feel very grateful because this was never my intention. I didn't even know that any of this was possible for me because
Yeah,
I didn't
same.
I didn't have anyone to look at who was doing this that I was like, "Oh, I
Mhm.
wanna do that." And I think
Mm.
when things happen organically, it's the most beautiful journey to be on because it just works and you know you're in the right place. And even though there's roadblocks and challenges, as there always is, like, you still
Mhm.
know that, like, "Okay, I still have this connection to this," and it's beautiful to be in that flow.
Yeah, no, it is, and it feels right. I mean, I have days sometimes where I'm like, "Why do I have a podcast? Like, is this the dumbest thing ever?" And then I record an episode like this, and I'm so truly in my flow state when I'm recording podcasts, and I am so happy when I'm doing this that I'm like,
Mhm.
I always just laugh at myself. I'm like, "Yes, I'm supposed to be doing this." Like, what am I talking about? And of course, we all have those moments, but
Mhm.
fighting that and just doing the thing, I think
Yeah.
is so important. And I also love what you said about your rituals kind of shifting and
Yeah.
trying different things because I think, especially coming back to the new year, as we're moving into the new year, which is when this podcast will air, we're always wanting to try something new. We're always wanting to better ourselves. And I used
Yeah.
to get caught up in meditation where I was like, I'd get mad at myself because I'm like, why can't I meditate? Like, all I
Mm.
want to do is be one of those girls that sits in her bed and meditates every day. Same with you with journaling. And I just could not
Yeah.
freaking do it.
Yeah.
And one thing that someone told me once, which I really loved, was write down, like, if you're so new to this and you don't even know where to start, there's a billion resources out there that can almost like make the
Yeah.
barrier too high and it kind of intimidates you. Just write down ideas, like brainstorm, like what sounds fun to me? What sounds like something that would like kind of cleanse my energetic palette or start
Yeah.
my day off right or give me energy or wind down? Like what sounds good, whether it's dancing in the morning or like doodling at night or journaling or reading a couple pages of a book or
Mhm.
going for a walk. And then you have this written thing of like ideas. And then every single day, like, you said movement is big for you. You don't specify what that is. So if one day you feel like going to yoga, one day you feel like going to a HIIT class, you have these ideas of what you could do. And then in that moment, you can just kind of intuitively choose. And it gives your intuition probably more room to speak because you know that you have all these options too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also with that, bringing in that non negotiable, like what are the maybe one or two main things that you know you want to do every day? You don't have to
Mm,
specify like we're talking about, but like does meditation or does movement or journaling or whatever it is, like that one or two things that you're like, I will feel so good if I do this every day in some capacity. Because
mm,
I feel like there's finding a balance between intuitive with also structure. Like, how can you bring in intuitive structure in your life? Where
mm.
I know for me, like, if I have too many choices, then I freeze and then I don't do anything, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, "Gosh, the time is up." Like, "Okay, what did I do?" So it's also, like, giving yourself the space to be intuitive within structures that you know will help you. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, like, writing things down, but then picking those non-negotiables of, like, "Okay, I know I'm for sure gonna always do these 2 things in some capacity," and then you
Mm,
can grow from there, and it gets easier too. I think, especially with the new year, there's pressure. It's like new year, new me. I got to do all the things. I want to go to the gym. I want to do this. I want to meditate again. And it's like pick the things that you know you can commit to and just do that little by little. And then you can add something else and you can change it. I also always
yeah.
tell people like nothing is permanent. I think we think that things are permanent in life, but you can change anything at any point.
Right.
It's your life.
Right.
So give yourself that power.
And I think giving yourself the power, I mean, you said New Year's can be a lot. There's also a pressure to like reinvent yourself on January 1, which is insane.
Yeah.
And isn't there something with like the moon cycles or something that like actually it's more like energetically powerful or intuitive for you to start that whole process like a little later in the year, like in
Yeah, so
end of
I
January or
I
something?
intuitively feel that. Like I always say that I feel like February is the true new year because
Yeah.
when you think about the end of the year, at least us in the northern hemisphere where it's winter time, like if you I
Mhm.
always tell people look outside, look to nature because that's really informing what we should be doing or kind of how we should feel. And in winter, like nature is quiet. Nature is still. Nature is, shedding its leaves. And so we're not like hitting the road and running, like, we're actually
Yeah.
really being called to go within and to quiet
Mm.
and soften and really just get curious about, okay, like, who am I? Where do I wanna go? You can still plant those seeds and explore those dreams, but I think there's this, like, new year, new me, January, like, the gyms are packed, like, people are just, like, bringing in
Yes.
all this energy, but when you look out in nature, like, that's not reflected in the same way, and so I just
Mm.
think give yourself permission to ease into the year. And it's funny for me because my birthday is December 31st, so every January 1st is like a brand new, like,
Yeah.
physically a brand new
Literally.
year for me. But, like, if you can just, sit with, "Okay, like, what do I wanna implement throughout the whole year?" It's not just about January, it's like, "What do I want to continue for the whole year that will benefit me and that will make me feel good that I can start slowly?" Nature is going slow, so we should go slow too.
Yeah, and I think that makes it more sustainable. Like, if you
Yeah,
set all of these insane goals on January 1 and kind of, like, force yourself into that's not gonna feel natural either, and there's
yeah,
really no way to stick to that for an entire year, you're gonna forget. So I think
yeah,
not only having ideas of maybe what you wanna work on, but also putting systems in place that you can check back in. And
Yeah.
even, like, I set, like, reminders, like, checking back into my New Year's goals, and I have monthly
Mm,
goals just to, like, bring it down a little bit, and weekly goals because I am so ADD that I am very, like, structured, goal-oriented in my head, and it's
yeah.
the same thing with even what you were talking about with structure within, like, intuition, like, creating structure for yourself so you have more wiggle room, whether that's, like,
Yeah.
for me, laying out clothes the night before so that I don't have to think about it, and just, like, giving
Mhm.
myself more freedom in the morning, or, like, try if I'm trying to incorporate more play into my life, having, like, a list maybe on a Post-it note in my room of, like, these are all things that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
So maybe, when you close your laptop for the day, just pick one of these things. It doesn't have to be, like, whatever you want because maybe when the time comes, you're feeling too overwhelmed to decide, and so then you just doom scroll for an hour on TikTok.
Yes. Oh my that's so
Yeah.
funny. I teach people something called the joy list, which is
Mm.
exactly that. Like, create a joy list on your phone or, like, write it somewhere and just list all the things. It's a list that you can add to, all the things that bring you joy. And in those moments where you're feeling lost or you're like, "What do I do right now?" Or, "I need to get myself, like, out of this mood. I need to do something different." You can look at
Mhm.
your joy list and say, "Okay, I'm gonna choose one thing and I'm just gonna do it." My mom
Mm.
taught me that when I was a kid, and I've always done it, and it's so helpful to just have something to look at and be like, "Okay, I'm picking that and I'm doing it." It's
Yeah.
powerful. We
Yeah.
need those reminders.
No, I agree, and it's, like, back to that, like, inner child, when you're little and you like, it just feels
Yeah.
like a fun, playful thing. And with the new year and talking about all those things, and again, that's probably when this podcast will come out, do you have any advice for anyone trying to brainstorm or feeling stuck with themselves or wanting to start fresh? I mean, I think one thing that you said,
Mhm.
which I'm definitely taking, is, like, not to put pressure on having everything decided by the 1st of January, like,
Yeah.
kind of aligning with nature and taking your time to decide what you want your intentions to be, but what else would you
Mhm.
tell people?
Yeah, definitely taking the pressure off. I think when we remove pressure, everything becomes more clear
Mm,
because there's also this sense of like we're closing out the new year, there's the holidays, and then we just should know all of our goals and what we want to do for the rest of the year, like within a day. And it's
yeah.
just like, is that real? Like, is that even possible? And so taking your time, slowing down, giving yourself grace, and also just allowing yourself the space to connect with you. I think that we do so much outside of ourselves, or we're like looking for answers or validation outside of ourselves, or we're
Mm,
always looking for someone to show us, like, what have they done, or what books are they reading, or like, what are they doing to change their lives? And yes, like, all of that is really powerful and great and can be great inspiration, but like, what do you actually want, or what really
mm,
makes you feel good? And so, giving yourself the space to sit with you, that's another thing I feel like we just don't do enough. We don't sit in stillness. We don't sit with a pen and a paper and just not have a prompt and just let ourselves write, let ourselves express. I think that there's so much magic in just being with yourself without a distraction or a device or even a plan. And that might even like make you feel anxious if you're listening to this, like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I could do that.
mhm,
That's why we should do it. And so,
mm,
yeah, that pressure, taking the pressure off, finding stillness, and even just, I feel like having a support group is really important, whether that is joining a community, doing something with your friends, like getting
mhm,
people around you involved, because I just think it's so much easier to stay accountable and to actually do things, take action when you're doing it with a group of people that you love or you're encouraging someone else to do it. So maybe even finding like a sense of community or support or friends to kind of like go on the journey with you. I know that that's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I like that, especially I think if you're trying to, like, implement a new habit in your life. I mean, so many people turn to health or they try to stop drinking or,
Yeah.
whatever you're craving more or less of in your life, finding other people because it can
Mhm.
be hard when you're surrounded by the opposite and going against the grain,
Yeah.
and I think, who you surround yourself with is everything. So
Mm.
finding someone that aligns with some of your goals can be really
Yeah.
helpful and just make it more fun.
I say that all the time. Like, we're just having fun.
Mhm.
Let it be easy, let it be playful. There doesn't have
Mhm.
to be all these rules, it doesn't have to be so strict and hard, and, like, again, coming back to choice, you get to choose, you
Yeah.
know? You get to choose how you wanna approach life, what you wanna do, what you wanna focus on, and I know that I just wanna have fun. I wanna play, I wanna do things that make me feel good and make me happy and
Mhm.
fulfilled, and that all comes back to choice, and I think
Yeah.
that empowering yourself through your choice and choosing to do things from a playful, fun place is just gonna make your life a lot better.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And
Yeah.
you've got rise, you've got ascend, and awake or awaken?
Awaken.
Okay. So we've got lots of things that people can sign up for. Is there anything else that
Yeah.
you're currently working on or that you're excited about that you're looking forward to in the new year?
Yeah, so I'm moving to Europe in
Mhm.
February,
We didn't
which
even
is
touch on this.
I know. I feel like we could just talk so much,
I
but
know.
yeah, my husband and I are moving to Europe in February, and I'm really excited to do more like in-person experiences, events, retreats out there and
Mm.
just yeah, provide some really cool opportunities for people to come together in beautiful places and connect with just each other, themselves, and even just the energy of being in a new place. And so I'm really excited about that and kind of what that will look like and what I'm building there. But I'm really just excited for Rise. I mean, I just launched it back in July. And so
Mm.
to see how much it's grown, and I have so many fun plans of things we're going to focus on and people I want to bring in, and just I see the vision of where it's going, and I'm really excited for people to see that vision along with me. And I'm also putting out my own intuitive healing certification, which is such a dream come true and something
Wow.
I've been wanting to do it for a really long time, and it's finally all coming together. And just to be able to give people the gift that I received when I went through an intuitive healing certification is just going to be the coolest thing ever. So I'm really excited for that as well.
Wow, I'm so excited for you. I mean, you have so
Thank
much
you.
on the horizon and with y'all's move too. I'm so excited about that. We might have to do a little check-in once you're all settled
Little part
overseas.
2.
To see
Yeah.
how everything's going. No, because I literally feel like I could talk to you for 3 more hours. I still have so many questions, but this has been so incredible. I mean, I've been like it's rare that I'm, like, taking notes for myself during a
Mhm.
podcast, and I literally have, like, a list of things that I wanna try and that I wanna do and bring into the new year because I haven't really
Yay.
set intentions for that yet. I feel like I'm gonna be more of a February New Year girl,
Mm,
just with the craziness of the holidays and everything, but I'm so
same.
appreciative of you, and this has been so incredible, and you have such a way of educating, which clearly you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with all of your courses and everything, so I hope anyone listening finds you, follows you, and also tries one of your courses because clearly you know what you're talking about and you're changing lives, and I think it's a great step in a direction, especially if you don't really know where to start, to have your guidance. So if you could drop your Instagram too and your website where everyone can find you, and we'll link it in the show notes as well.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. I mean, this has been such an honor to be with you here. And like you were saying earlier about podcasting, like you are so in your power and in your truth and your gifts doing this. I feel
Well,
like
thank
you
you.
just put out such great things out of your guests and you make people
Mhm.
so comfortable. So thank you for holding space and yeah, just being able to have this opportunity to speak and share. And I love that you were taking notes. We'll have to circle back and see how
Yes.
things are in February because
Uh-huh.
it's February New Year's for all of us here. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, if you are really new or if you're wanting to, maybe meditation is on your goal list for 2025, come check out Rise. That's definitely like the best entry space because there's meditations, there's challenges, there's courses, there's so many fun things that are in Rise and community. So you get to learn
Mhm.
and grow and be supported by people. And you can follow me anywhere at Nicolle Merrilyne on all platforms. And actually, another thing that's coming next year is I'm getting a revamp of my website. So that'll be fun.
Oh,
That'll be fun too. You
that's
guys could see
exciting.
that. But yeah, I just so appreciate this and you are the best, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We so appreciate you, and I feel like Nicole shares this with me that if you have any questions or want to talk about anything you heard, please feel
Yeah.
free to DM either of us. My
Yeah.
DMs are always open, and I'm sure yours are as well. We both love connecting with our communities, and
Yeah.
follow along with Nicole for all the updates and watch her iconic move to Europe coming soon. Loading currently.
Loading currently, coming soon. Yeah, my DMs are always open. Like I've said so many times here, my mission is just to make all of this stuff less scary and more
Mm,
approachable and more fun. So if you have questions, let me know. And yeah, this has just been so much fun. Thank you again. I love
yes.
this.
Thank you so much, guys. We will chat
Yay.
next Thursday. Bye.
Bye.
All right, and that is a wrap on this week's episode. Thank you guys so freaking much. That was so stunning. I love this episode. Nicole also told me that she was going to give us a little discount code for our listeners. So if you want the discount code for her Rise program, please DM me and I can send you the link and I'll be posting about it on our socials as well. But so great. I hope you took notes and I'm curious what you guys took from this episode. Feel free to DM because I took so much and I'm really implementing it with the new year. You can catch us every single Thursday anywhere you get your podcast. We talk about everything under the sun. I do solo episodes. I have other people on to chat about their life and things of that nature. So if you like what you heard and you want to chat, I am always open via DMs, like I said earlier. And if there's anyone you want me to have on, anything you'd like me to discuss, I'm always all ears and love hearing from you guys. Please, if you like what you heard, leave us a little rating and review as we continue to grow. I so appreciate it. And you can also now catch us on YouTube, so don't forget to watch us there. And I think that's all I got. So happy New Year, everyone. Have a fabulous day. Have a fabulous 2025. Let's make it the best one yet. See ya.